Have your attention. I'll call meeting 3, the Joint Interim Committee on Education to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Senator Carroll, Senator Funky Fromeyer,
Present.
Senator Gibbons, Senator Higdon, Senator Meredith, Senator Neal, Senator Stivers, Senator Thomas, Senator Tishner,
Present.
Senator Williams,
Here.
Senator Wilson,
Here.
Senator Wise,
Here.
Representative Baker,
Here.
Representative Ballman,
Present.
Representative Bojanowski,
Here.
Representative Brown,
Here.
Representative Callaway,
Present.
Representative Decker,
Present.
Representative Jackson,
Present.
Representative Lewis,
Here.
Representative Massaroni, Representative McCool, Representative Rayburn,
Here.
Representative Rawlings,
Here.
Representative Raymond,
Here.
Representative Riley, Representative Timoney,
Here.
Representative Truitt,
Here.
Representative Weber,
Here.
Representative Wilner,
Here.
Co-Chair West,
Here.
Co-Chair Tipton.
Present. Members, you should have a copy of the July 18th minutes in your packet. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Any members have any guests they'd like to recognize at this time? I do want to make one recognition. I'll take the privilege of the chair. One of the best assets that we have as legislators are our staff people. And we are very fortunate here on the Education Committee to have quality staff. And we do have one member of our staff. This will be her last Joint Interim Committee on Education. Jill Carroll Ellis, our staff administrator, has been selected to be the new executive director of KIA in Keesley. Congratulations to her. And we do have Senator West and I do have a citation prepared for Jill Carroll, if I could read that real quickly. To all to whom these presents shall come greetings, know ye that Jill Carroll Ellis is recognized and honored as she steps down following more than a decade of meritorious service to the Legislative Research Commission, the General Assembly, and the citizens of the Commonwealth. A graduate of Eastern Kentucky University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in journalism. Ms. Ellis began her tenure with LRC in 2011 as an Education Committee analyst. She would serve in that capacity until 2014, when she accepted her current post as Education Staff Administrator, where she has served with great skill and professionalism ever since. Prior to accepting the position of LRC, she served for many years with KIA. She began her career with KIA in 1999 as administrative specialist in the Student Loan Service Center, and would rise steadily through the ranks to serve as a program administrator and later as a program advisor with the Kentucky Education Savings Plan Trust, executive director of Kentucky's Affordable Prepaid Tuition Program, and ultimately as vice president of government relations and student services. Ms. Ellis is stepping down from her position at LRC to serve as executive director of KIA, a position to which she brings a wealth of experience and expertise garnered over a long and distinguished career with the organization. Inasmuch as Jill Carroll Ellis has given so generously of her time and substantial talents on behalf of LRC and the citizens and leaders of the Bluegrass State, and as a result has earned the utmost respect and admiration of her colleagues and the myriad citizens who have benefited from her tireless hard work and commitment, she is offered sincere commendation and gratitude for her years of exemplary service, is extended best wishes for the utmost success and good fortune in all of her future endeavors. And on the motion of Senator Stephen West, Representative James Allen Tipton, and the members of the Interim Joint Committee on Education, is hereby deemed by this honorable body most worthy of its recognition, done this day in Frankfort, the first day of August in the year 2023. Jill Carroll, thank you so much. Jill Carroll, you will be missed, but we will look forward to continue to working with you in your new role. Before we get into the agenda, Senator Thomas has asked for a minute. Senator Thomas?
Thank you, Chairman Tipton. And let me begin by saying we are all proud of where we come from. We're proud of our hometown and our families and our neighbors. And I'm no exception to that. I share pride in my home community of Lexington. And this morning at 7:30, we had the equivalent of the State of the Union address for Fayette County. And over 1,000 people of all sectors of the community, business community, the arts community, from government, were there to show our strong support for our public schools. And Fayette County, the superintendent, Dr. Demetrius Liggins, talked about all the great things that he's doing. He's expanding preschool for all classes of people. He has a nurse in every school. He announced that Fayette County schools is the first school district to have a starting salary over $50,000. And we hear a lot about, all of us here sitting at this table hear a lot about staff shortages and workforce shortages, and we're addressing that. So I just want to give a shout out to Fayette County Public Schools and all the work that I'm doing. And Representative Tipton, again, you know how much I think about you. I've given you a copy of our booklet that you can add to the record so that anyone can see the fine work that we're doing in Fayette County Public Schools. So thank you for giving me that minute to talk about, again, our State of the Union address in Fayette County today.
You're very welcome, Senator Thomas. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's get into our agenda now. The first item is the Kentucky Center for Mathematics. If you will come forward, I believe it's been a while since you've presented to our committee. And over the last few years, we've talked about literacy a lot. And we don't want to forget about numeracy and math. So we're thankful for having you all here today. If you will make sure that the green light is on your microphone, and please pull those mics close to you. Sometimes if they're not close to you, it's difficult for us to hear. And just to let you know, I do swear witnesses in. So if you will identify yourself for the record, and then I'll swear you in.
Good morning. I'm Kelly DeLong, Executive Director of the Kentucky Center for Mathematics.
Good morning. Diana McGill, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at NKU.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Holbrook, a second grade teacher at Martha Jane Potter Elementary School in Letcher County.
Good morning. I'm Kanita, the co-chair of the Mathematics Department.
You make sure your green light is on, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning again. I'm Kanita, the co-chair of the Mathematics Department at Western Kentucky University.
Good morning. Jonathan Thomas, Chair of the Department of STEM Education at the University of Kentucky.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We do.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much, and please proceed with your presentation. And I know it's a very lengthy slideshow, and we've got a full agenda today, so if you could be prompt. Thank you, Kelly.
I will indeed do that. Good morning, committee members. I'm Kelly DeLong, Executive Director of the Kentucky Center for Mathematics, and we are so excited to be here today to talk about the work that we do and to problem solve with regards to math test scores across the state of Kentucky. Want to start here with the pictures of children. This is why you do what you do. This is why we do what we do. And children are at the forefront of everything that we think about at the Kentucky Center for Mathematics. Teachers are treasures to us, and they are at our heart. Legislated in 2006, and indeed we are funded by the state general fund, and we are housed at Northern Kentucky University. We do math professional learning for the state of Kentucky, and at this moment, this very second, we're in Nelson County working with their district doing professional learning. So to take a look at our legislation, wanted to kind of orient and give us the background. We're a clearinghouse for information on reliable and research-based methods. We really focus on that math intervention. We focus on diagnostic assessments. Coaching and mentoring is really an important part of what we're doing, and that's becoming more and more of what we're working on, and other instructional strategies to address students' needs. So this is what you tasked us to do, and this is what we do day in and day out. Over the past 3 years, we have had close to 2,200 teachers participate in KCM Professional Learning. That is 2,293 hours of professional learning. We have done that in both an in-person, a hybrid, and then you know what the last 2 years were. We were virtual and did an excellent job with that. We focus on high-quality professional learning as defined by the Kentucky Department of Education and research. But here is something that I think gives us a lot of return for our value. We have a website that is very vibrant, and I hope that if you have the opportunity earlier to maybe click on some of the links in our presentation. The PDF has hot links that you can click on. But we have had over 263,000 users of that KCM website. The math of that is somebody logs on every minute for the last 3 years. We have 1.5 million, close to 1.5 million page views. This is 50 states and 163 countries looking at the materials that we have created here in the state of Kentucky. Most popular are Family Math and our Math Fact Fluency resources. This is our core work. We also have a very popular KCM annual conference. You can see the folks that came in March. That was a sold-out house in March. Our educators were excited to learn from each other. They were excited to present to each other. It is math teachers learning from math teachers. I will say that this kind of community is what helps us to retain and to grow our teachers. Basically, we work in 4 areas. We have statewide courses. We have instructional resources that are asynchronous for all stakeholders. We have district support. This is customized for superintendents and curriculum instruction leaders. And we collaborate with them. And, of course, we are partners for the Math Achievement Fund and our KDE and our out of the Office of Teaching and Learning. So one of the things that I really think is important is this presentation shows the collaboration that we have across the Commonwealth. And I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Kenita Duclos.
Good morning again. As I said, I'm the chair of the Mathematics Department at Western Kentucky University, and I'm also a contributing member of the Catalyzing Change for High School Mathematics, the first in a 3-part series that, thanks to KCM, I've been able to do professional development both in hybrid, in-person, and virtual. Our goal is for teachers to improve their leadership abilities, their mathematical content, and teaching strategies. And we hope that all students will have a positive mathematical identity where they see themselves not only as doers of mathematics, but users of mathematics. I'll also serve as a mentor to the teachers who, in addition to all the supplies and PD provided by KCM, may need extra professional and personal support. And also, we have another collaborative partner with us, Dr. Thomas.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan Thomas. I'm chair of Department of STEM Education at the University of Kentucky. And I've been an enthusiast of KCM since its inception about 15 years ago. And, you know, a lot of us in the university life, we can do a lot of important work and good work, and it can be fragmented at times. What KCM does, it draws us together as a group. And a good example of that is a collaboration with public post-secondary institutions from across the state focused on elementary teachers' understanding of teaching numeracy for young children. And we've been able to secure a lot of federal funds from the National Science Foundation to support some really important research. But I think even the bigger thing is that gives our prospective teachers the language, the tools, and the skills to do amazing work with young children right from the jump. And it also plugs them into the KCM community so that when they get out there in those early years of teaching, they feel supported, they feel networked. You know, one of the comments that we get pretty regularly is, why didn't I learn this before? Why didn't I learn this earlier in my career? And that's something that we take really seriously, and we try to address where we're pulling in the same direction across institutions of higher education. You know, another example is some of the work of Dr. Jennifer Bay Williams from University of Louisville. She's done some really groundbreaking research in that fact fluency, that foundational mathematics that's so important for our students. You know, KCM provides a hub to share that out and to get other folks at other institutions thinking about how that can work in our teacher prep programs, how that can work with our young teachers, our aspiring teachers, that plugs them in and helps them, again, develop those tools and skills that are so important. Kate Marin, also at the University of Louisville, faculty member. She's a newer member of the KCM team. I think she kind of underscores the importance of this infrastructure and and these collaborative networks, she's been in other states, and she writes, we're lucky to have the KCM providing that unwavering support for teachers, because that's just not present in other locations. Thank you.
So the theme is collaborative, and we see that we are also a collaborative partner with the Kentucky Department of Education. We work with them in the Math Achievement Fund. This is the first year. This is the end of the first year of the new cycle, and it was exciting to be able to work on that, because our focus is now on math coaching, and that's showing some great promise. There's some compelling research that's coming out with regards to that. In addition, we are a partner with the Office of Innovation. We actually wrote a grant that secured $317,000 in grant money for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And the idea here is that we're looking for an alternative assessment. I feel like this is something that is important to you guys, a different way to be able to assess. And we are looking into micro-credentialing. That, of course, is similar to business, what we see in business and industry. And this is exciting work, but we are proud of this grant. You can see that our KDE partners value us and will categorize us as a strong and consistent partner, because you can count on KCM. We also have partnerships with our educational cooperatives, specifically many of them, but specifically the KEDC we have collaborated with them, and we are supplying both professional learning and materials for teachers in their regions. I think that's just making it, layering on this support with others really helps to support our teachers in a variety of regions. You can see all the materials. It comes by the truckload. So this is one of the themes from KCM. We are good stewards of your money that you've given us. We supply lots of teacher materials that go directly to children in classrooms. Abby Labor, Francis, she's a lead coordinator, kind of underscores, she says, I wasn't a math person, but when I come to KCM training, it is very, she has a way, our KCM folks have a way of inviting you in so that you too begin to feel like you are a math person. So with that, we also customize district support under the direction of superintendents and curriculum directors. We do this at little or no cost to those districts. It's focusing on early numeracy concepts, Kentucky academic standards, whole number operation, math fluency, something near and dear to our heart, and fractions. We believe in the administrators. Mr. Truitt, I know that you're as a principal, but we believe in our school administrators and work with school districts to support their school administrators in what great mathematics instruction looks like in the classroom. This is our friends in Muhlenberg County. I'll be there tomorrow working with their teachers. In addition to that, you can see that it continues. We have math intervention and professional learning. This is one of the ones that we just finished is with Perry County. So that was just last week. Early numeracy diagnostic assessment with a variety of counties, and courses. Of course, we have courses and collegial team support. Reed Atkins, superintendent of Pike County School. I like that last sentence there where he says, KCM helps us to create a conducive environment for student success, working in individual school districts. Of course, we're also a teacher's teacher. That's who really loves us. We hang out with our teachers. They love us. They are our people. When the pandemic hit and a math interventionist said, how am I supposed to do math intervention over a Zoom call? We said, hang tight. What are the materials that you love? They sent us those materials, and then we transitioned them to be virtual materials so that they could use them. We created over 200 virtual manipulatives or virtual resources that could be used, because that's what our teachers needed. It was a hard time, and we were there to help our teachers. You can access those on our website. They're open source and continuing to be a help to teachers. We also kind of co-teach with teachers. We model, and basically this is happy faces of teachers that take the materials that we give them back to their classroom, and they use it with their students. We're also a collaborative in our communities. We host and support family math nights. This is something that we do that's very passionate. We're very passionate about, because we believe that parents are the first educator for their children. We help the parents to understand the Kentucky Academic Standards mathematics. We are looking to have those positive attitudes towards math education. We believe that it's a win for everyone. And you can see that little pumpkin there in the center. She says, I can learn all things. And she's right. She can learn anything that she puts her mind to. These are faces of families. We're also collaborative with KET. We support their early numeracy programming, and we support their curriculum alignment with their workforce development. And obviously, we're also very active in professional organizations. So we kind of hub around with all of the folks that have to do with math education. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda from Martha J. Potter Elementary School. She's going to tell you how KCM supported her in a time of need.
Hello. Again, my name is Amanda Holbrook, and I'm a second grade teacher at Martha Jane Potter Elementary in Letcher County. I brought with me today my husband, Aaron, who is a special education teacher in Letcher County, and my 10-year-old son, Eli, who is a student. During the overnight hours of July 28th, 2022, over 2 months' worth of rain fell on my small eastern Kentucky community, leading to areas of total loss and devastation. Many people lost their homes, and some, unfortunately, my home and family were spared, but the school in which my husband and I both teach and our 10-year-old son attends was totally devastated. After weeks of uncertainty, the school was deemed safe enough for staff to enter. We were immediately responded, "How can I help?" And just like Representative Justice, Kelly showed up to help. She brought in truckloads of brand new hands-on math materials and calculators for our students. She fully equipped our teachers with the materials they needed to teach mathematics. With the help of Kelly and the Kentucky Center for Mathematics, our students began the year with good quality math instruction.
So you can count on KCM. So what are some of the successes that we have? We collect data in two ways. One is a professional learning experience survey that gives us feedback from the teachers on how we're doing, and we take that data. You can see evidence of that. In addition to that, we do some math belief surveys. That all of that data is published in our annual reports, which are housed on our website. Hope you'll go check out our website. One of the things that we think is important is that at the end of the year, there was 100% of the teachers that said administrators in my school actually support my participation in this professional learning because they come with a truckload of materials when they get back. One of the things that I think is most promising that I really want to draw your attention to is this idea of mathematics coaching. We have, for the Math Achievement Fund, we have 13 math coaches. We have 92 teachers that participated, 279 classroom observations, and guess what the results were? All the teachers, 100% of the teachers, all 92 of them grew at least one level in the Kentucky Mathematics Innovation Tool rubric. There's more to be said about that. I'd love to tell you more about that, but that's just some really promising data, and it's hot off the press, June 2023. So I took a look at some of the reports that were given previously, and this, of course, is the slide from the testing, the KDE testing accountability. We can see that I humbly say to you that Kentucky Mathematics proficiency on the Kentucky Summative Assessment in 2022 was not where we wanted it to be. It is not where we wanted it to be. So we hypothesized those causal factors, and we know that it was virtual learning was super hard. Doing your math fact fluency over Zoom, super hard, right? Limited time for instruction during that time if the students had internet access. I will also say that we traditionally have a little bit of a drop when we adopt those new standards. The Kentucky academic standards are rigorous. I say high five to Kentucky for saying that we believe that all kids can do this. So I think that over time we're going to see this upward trajectory. But in addition to that, the Kentucky Summative Assessment has an increase in cognitive complexity. I'll just say it's a challenge that we're up for helping schools overcome and to see that increase over time. Our response, we had a swift response knowing the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic in mathematics. We have a deep focus on those Kentucky academic standards, collaborating with co-ops, collaborating with school districts, collaborating with individual educators in understanding those academic standards. We continue, the core value that we have is we believe intervention is indeed part of what's going to make a difference for students. And we launched a middle grades numeracy course because we knew that fractions were going to be hard to learn during that remote time. So we are looking to close the gap during that time. Here are the NAEP report. Took some screenshots of that information that's in there. You can see the 4th grade from 2019. Boy, did that show some promise. We had 2019, and there's 2022 NAEP. So again, effects. We can see the effects. The only little bright glimmer that I can say is that we are close to the national average. So given such a kind of devastating time in education as the pandemic, but we were close to the national average. In looking at the report card and the results, we can see kind of some overarching themes. But then we have our 8th grade. This is data that I'd love to dig into with a committee of folks who have some stakeholders to really make a difference, because this is data that we know that in the state of Kentucky we can do so much better than this 8th grade data. I do want to say that from the NAEP officials, they actually said that this wasn't just Kentucky. So this was across the nation. It was systemic. They said the drop was comprehensive. It was double digits, and it was everywhere. And they say that this is big stuff for America. And I agree that it's also big stuff for Kentucky. But that's why, as we have a jump on it in the state of Kentucky, and we have collaborative folks who are really dedicated to some increase in these scores, I believe that Kentucky can make a big difference. Some of the solutions that they say are to have intervention systems and a focus on core instruction. Indeed, reminding you of what our response is, we have a new section. It's actually not new, but it's updated, the Kentucky Numeracy Project. It's beautiful. Teachers across Kentucky, and actually it's open source. So the thing that I need you to know is that our website materials are open source. They're for everyone, and our Kentucky teachers can access them. We've also updated our fluency assessments in response to knowing that a good universal screener may be on the horizon. And of course, we launched our middle grades numeracy course. So what are some recommendations that we have? Just like you all, I think we need to continue to focus on those early numeracy skills. They are so important. Representative Tipton, just like you say, early literacy skills make a difference. We know that early numeracy makes a difference. We believe that you should focus on math fact fluency. We've got some experts here in the state of Kentucky that we can really lean in on to make a difference in that arena. We believe continued support for Kentucky academic standards. We think that reviving the Committee for Math Achievement by having some business folks on that committee, having some industry, having higher education, stakeholders from all walks of life can really help us to get some focus on making a difference for the state of Kentucky. We want you to continue supporting the math coaches in our schools. Obviously, you guys were onto something because our friends are here talking about instructional coaching. We agree. That makes a difference. And so we also think that supporting our school level administrators and supporting them with what good math instruction is also a big key. So here we are, Kentucky Center for Mathematics, making a difference, working hard. We're a small and mighty center out of Northern Kentucky University, working hard across the Commonwealth. You can vote. You can count on us. So I love that ends up being the kind of the way that I want to end it is that I want you to think about KCM and you say that we can count on them. Because we are indeed national experts in math education. We know that there are challenges ahead, and we are up for the task of being part of that solution. And then I ask this question, and that is, how can the KCM help you, the legislators, achieve your vision for math education? Because we humbly say that we are here to serve you. We are here to serve all taxpayers, and we are here to serve the children and the teachers of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you.
Kelly, thank you and your presenters. I've got a couple of questions, and we have some members, and
Beautiful.
if we have time, I may have some more questions.
That's right. That's right.
As I'm looking at, of course, we all understand, we've all seen the test scores. We've all seen the data. Looking back in history, one trend that I've noticed on the test scores is that they tend to drop from elementary school to middle school to high school. Could you elaborate on what's causing that and what we can do to improve that?
Well, hypothesizing, right? Hypothesizing that small decline is that students are working diligently, but they may not have secured those math fact fluencies that needed to be in their soul. So then the math gets very complicated at the middle and the high school level. So we believe that it's that fundamental math fluency that allows them to do the complex algebra. Truth with regards to neuroscience. Once your brain has those fact fluencies and they're just with automaticity, then that frees up your working memory to be able to do the problem solving. We also think that the problem solving is rooted in some great tasks that kids wrestle with that mean something to them. And so I hypothesize that's one of the things. The other thing is I think we want kids to have their math identity. So I can go on that with it a little bit more, but I think kids need to have a math identity, and maybe by the time they get to middle school, they may have decided that math is not their identity. We want to change that.
Well, we'll continue to have that conversation. What you're saying sounds a lot like what we're talking about in early literacy. You need those early literacy skills to prepare you, and same thing with early numeracy. I have a question from Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, I do have a statement and a question, if that would be okay. If you could go back to the 4th grade NAEP scores. I just wanted to, because I've read quite a bit about NAEP. So for my colleagues, that lighter blue is NAEP proficient, and NAEP proficient is very different than KSA, KPrep proficient. So it represents solid academic performance and competency over challenging subject materials. So if we wanted to look at a number, it would be that 25% below basic where we need to be the most concerned. But if then you bump up to the 8th grade, as a nation, we've got a lot of children who are below basic. So just kind of a little caveat for when you look at NAEP scores. So my question for you is, what can you see us doing as a General Assembly to support math education across the state?
I believe that when we go back to focus and do a lot of the early numeracy work, that is going to make a difference. I also say that we can parallel those same skills in our fractions, and I think so that would shore up some ways that we can help our folks. I may defer to my crew here. I've got some pretty smart experts down there that may have some thoughts about that also.
Yeah, I think, as we move up the grade levels, I think the support structures kind of change. We talked a little bit about math identity, but also just what intervention looks like. Intervention with young children, it's a little bit easier sometimes to drop back and fill in some of those gaps and holes and spaces with foundational numeracy. As we get up to 8th grade or even into high school, dropping back to, arithmetic can take a different flavor and a different form. It can be really challenging. It can do some of that work to undermine those math identities. If we're dropping back to elementary grade level mathematics with a high school student, that's signaling something to that student. And so I have to be really careful and thoughtful about what those intervention support structures look like and how they can be nurturing but still do the mathematical lift that we need them to do. I would just add to that, what I think about from a teacher preparation perspective is what we're seeing in terms of pipeline and how, we're having fewer teachers doing more work. And if we could think really hard about drawing people to the profession of teaching and treating that as a STEM profession like all the other important STEM professions out there, I think that would move the needle a little bit on some of what we're seeing here too. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Thomas, you're going to be the last one that gets today. So you wait a minute. We've got 6 in the queue, and due to time, I'm going to hold it at that. You just barely got in, Senator. Representative Raymond has a question.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about, over here, I wanted to ask about how we're supporting our kids before they even come to school, right? Before they're 5 or 6. It seems like we've been a lot more successful in the last few years in messaging, read to your kids, sing to your kids, talk to your kids. This legislature has funded Imagination Library, so all of our kids under 5 book in their homes each month. But how are you supporting early childhood educators? Are they part of KCM? Can they access your all support? And is that just public school educators, or is it private and home-based? And then children who stay home until kindergarten, how can we support their caregivers? It may be outside the scope of KCM, but who do you look to do that numeracy work before kids get to kindergarten?
Fantastic question. We have we have a pre-K curriculum and course that we do that's very popular, grounded in the research. So we would love to scale that to more places with the those preschool teachers. In addition to that, I think that our attempt was to work with KET to think about the early numeracy in getting the information to the parents that would then access our family math. So I'd love for you to go back in and look, because we believe that helping parents with some family math ready to use resources, simple, easy, open it up and ready to use with their children, because that way they can encourage their children with their mathematics skills. So we have the expertise. Probably in terms of the avenues and the venues for being able to scale it, that's the kind of thing that I would love to brainstorm with the legislators. How do we scale that? We do it through our website and some small things, but I'd love to get it in all the hands of all the folks. And to answer your question, we are open to private schools, we're open to homeschools, we're open. We believe that our online resources are wide open to lots of folks, and maybe we just need to get that information out to more folks.
Next, we have Vice Chair Truitt.
Thank you guys for the presentation. My question, Dr. Thomas hit on it a little bit. How much do you believe that the teacher shortage, especially in mathematics, contributes to these low performing scores? I know myself, I taught high school math for 15 years. Right. And I believe now if I put my resume out there being certified for K through 12, that I could probably choose any school
170 school districts.
Yeah, in the
170,
state of Kentucky,
that's right.
To work. In your opinion, what can we do as legislators to help with this? Because we know if you've got good teachers in there, those scores are going to increase. So how do we put the right people in those spots? Because I think I can speak on behalf of our legislators. We're willing to do whatever we can. So in your opinion, how can we put more qualified people in these positions?
So the first step that I'd love for us to do is to attract those folks to be able to come. But I believe a grow your own is another way that would be beautiful. Someone who wants to wants to stay in the community, give them that avenue to be able to do that. But most importantly, I believe in mentoring. And so imagine I had this very same thing when I was a young teacher in the classroom as a middle school. I was a middle school math teacher. My most influential folks were those that I taught with. So we really need to have this beautiful mentoring program with our newest teachers to give them all the resources. They don't need to have a machete to be trying to go through the curriculum, trying to find some materials, trying to do the assessments. They need to be developing relationships with kids and having the profession to support them in a way. So to answer your question, I'd love to retain our own, grow our own in our counties, retain our own. It is the theory behind Kentucky Math Teacher Leaders. They were classroom teachers that are encouraged to stay in their schools to be able to grow. Amanda's the perfect example. We have 50 more just like it to grow them and to have them be influential leaders in their district.
Next, we have Representative Massaroni. Could you get your microphone on, please? Maybe you need to.
I just wanted
There you
to
go.
thank you today for being in Nelson County and supporting some of our schools. I know several of our schools has been struggling with math scores, so thank you for the intervention with that.
We are looking forward to it. As a matter of fact, I leave here. I get in my car, I'm going there to be able to work with our teachers. We're doing pre-K. We're doing K2. We have K2 today. Pre-K is over a series in the fall, and 3-5 again over a series in the fall. So thank you for the your superintendent and curriculum folks. It's really one of your curriculum folks that invited us in. We customized it for you all. With the materials are customized, the concepts are customized, and it's part of a bigger picture. So again, being collaborative.
Next, we have Senator Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for the information today. I appreciate your comment about the discussion last year about literacy. It's a very reminiscent of that. We took action last year with the Collaborative Center for Literary Development to fund that program because we weren't getting the results we thought we needed. And I'm quite concerned when you look at the trend line for this particular subject. It looks like 2015 was maybe our best year, and we've been a downward trend ever since then. 2022 is certainly an outlier for everyone, almost in every subject, but I don't know that we can blame everything on COVID, because again, it's a downward trend since 2015, so that's very disturbing to me. It looks like when we have a level of success like we saw back in 2015, an upward trend, we build on that success, but we don't. It looks like we're constantly resetting. Every time we have one of these meetings, well, here's what we're going to do now, and we're not building on success. So, and I appreciate from you folks, tell me what's different from today than what we saw back in 2015, and is there data to support that difference, and how should we address it? You mentioned a lot of things that we could do, we should do. I guess that's what I'm looking for specifically is 2015 was our best year. We've fallen since then. Here's the reasons why. Here's what we need to do. And I don't know that I'm hearing that today. So can you give me that kind of analysis?
I would love to study that a little bit more, given that number point for that to be able to get back with you. But my sense of it is that we really believe in intervention, and so we believe that was probably one of our. We had a really big, beautiful series of interventions that was scaled to 93 schools across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and that was making a difference for our students.
So what happened?
Well, the answer is there's probably lots of factors with regards to that, and this is one that I appreciate being on the hot seat, and I am collaborative, and we'll take a look at that to see all of the factors, because there are so many of those factors, but happy to be able to take a look at that, because we are working very hard for the teachers, and I'm sure that I can kind of unearth that with that point in as the date to be able to go back and look.
I have no doubt that you're working hard. It's not my intention to put you on the hot seat.
I know, that's
but
okay.
The figures
That's
speak
okay.
for themselves.
Yeah.
I look for trend lines. I look for upward improvement, and we're not seeing it. And maybe we're working hard, but maybe we're working the wrong direction. And that's what I'm trying to wrap my arms around. We're not being successful. We're failing, and there's got to be accountability for failures. There are reasons why we have declined. I'd like more focus on that and some education as to what's different and what we can do to amend that and fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Meredith, if I may weigh in just very briefly on that, I think that 2015 is an interesting time point. That was in my neck of the woods. That's when I first started seeing notes, kind of Representative Truitt's point about emerging teacher shortages in STEM. In fact, I wrote an editorial in early 2016, I believe, about the emerging teacher shortage crisis in STEM. And so a hypothesis I have, is if that wasn't a pivot point for some of what we're seeing in student performance declines in mathematics. We were starting to see overstressed teachers on that front. Again, I think I'd like to drill into that a little bit more, but it's a wondering I have, and I think it's an interesting note on your behalf to sort of pick that point in time.
I appreciate it as well. It's not just that point in time, but you look at the trend line, and it's the downward trend line since then.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can speak on behalf of everybody in this committee, the entire legislature. We will do whatever we can to help you, but we need some more definitive recommendations. As here's what we need to do, and if acknowledge if we failed, we failed. But here's the reasons we failed. Now, what can we do to be successful? And right now, we're not being successful, and I'm not hearing today what specific measures we need to take to lift these scores up to where they need to be. And that's my disappointment for today. But thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kelly, I sense we're going to have continuing conversations on this.
Absolutely.
And if you could come up with some thoughts on that and maybe send to us, we can send out to all the committee members. I believe there was a change in standards at one point during there and the impact on that. So please follow up on that. Next, we have Co-Chair West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a quick question. In your opinion, you're our clearinghouse. We rely on you for information and your boots on the ground. You see this stuff every day. When a new teacher comes in from post-secondary, brand new, what percentage of those teachers are prepared to teach mathematics, in your opinion? Is that, what is it currently, and has that changed, say, since 2015 or something? Is there a problem there?
I think the most important thing is that education is such a difficult profession. It has been, I've been in it 34 years. And it is one where one must have all the tools in your tool belt to be able to really do a beautiful job in the classroom from the get-go, right? So they have a semester of student teaching, and then they have to be ready to go from the get-go. So that is, I think, the hardest part, that it's hard to teach mathematics from the get-go, because it is such a beautiful, skilled profession. So the answer to, is it a problem? I think the evidence is yes, our teachers come straight out, but I think a bigger problem is that some of them aren't coming out of teacher prep programs. And so the numbers, we are staffing classrooms with teachers that didn't necessarily have that teacher prep. So we're having to start and really start from ground zero to get them back up to speed. And that takes a while, which is why I would love for them to be in the KCM courses, especially in some of those early numeracy courses, to get them the skills and the tools, again, the materials in the classroom.
So, if I quick follow up, Mr. Chairman. So, what I hear you telling me is that many are not prepared.
Right.
This is a legitimate question. Should we expect, if someone has a 4-year degree from a teaching institution and they've done their student teaching, that they should be able, especially if they're an elementary teacher, shouldn't they already be able to teach basic math?
Absolutely.
Is that, okay.
Right, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
From what I hear you telling me, we're not seeing that, and you didn't give me a percentage, which is fair enough.
Right.
But we're not seeing that, and that's clearly a problem, right?
It is a problem when teachers go into the classroom and are not ready to teach the mathematics. And so we want to support them in the first several 2 or 3 years to really get them to be skilled at that. But again, it's on your mark, get set, go. The minute they come out, there's a lot to know, to be able to do for them, and to know, to be at the to be at an excellent level in each one of those takes years. It takes years to get to be the kind of teacher that Amanda is.
Sure.
A really good second grade teacher. So we put them with teacher mentors in their school.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our final question this segment is going to come from Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman Tipton. Mr. Long, many of us sitting here just came back from the Southern Legislative Conference. This is a meeting annually of all the Southern legislators. And of course, being a Southerner myself, I like to go to these meetings to see what's going on in the South. You may or may not be aware that Alabama, the state of Alabama, this year passed what they call the Numeracy Act, in which they focused on increasing, mathematics education and learning for all students in Alabama. And I will tell you, Mr. Long, the most profound statement that I've heard this year was not something I heard on MSNBC, but came from an educator in Alabama that said this. They said, we would be appalled if someone came to us and said, letters and vowels are hard for me to comprehend. I just can't decipher an A from an E, a P from a T. I just can't grasp, words and sounds. Okay, because we expect, Mr. Long, everyone to be able to read. And when someone comes to us and say they can't read, then we are appalled by that. We can't understand that. And yet we readily accept, Mr. Long, when someone says, I just can't get math. It's just too hard for me. It's just something I just can't comprehend. And the same attitude we take toward reading, Mr. Long, I don't care whether you're a boy or girl, male or female, we should have that same kind of approach toward math. And Alabama took that to heart and passed the Numeracy Act that says we're going to make sure that students are as learned and as skilled in math as they are in reading. No, there's never going to be a separation between being able to read and being able to do math. There are some of us here today that think it's time for Kentucky to follow Alabama's lead and do a Numeracy Act. I see everybody's nodding their head.
Yeah, I've studied it.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you, and I'd just like for you to hear bits and pieces, as we think about how we're going to do that, okay, what suggestions, just briefly, you would have for us now in terms of what kind of policies should go into that Numeracy Act so that we don't have these kind of questions 20 years from now with the next generation, in terms of their comprehension of math?
Indeed. That Numeracy Act is onto something. They have number one in their bulleted list is a math coach. And so we agree that math coaches help to coach teachers to be at the top of their game. We also agree that it says focus on those standards. And so focus on standards, focus on assessment. Then it also says to focus on high quality instructional resources. So that indeed parallels the suggestion that we would have for our legislators here, that says that empowering teachers with the tools and the folks to support them to work at high levels is indeed what we would also agree with. And again, in the presentation today, we showed just how collaborative we are, that we can help you to get to the folks that you're looking for, to be the clearinghouse that we are, and to be able to work diligently with all kinds of folks. We have the structure built for that, and would love to be, again, I leave it with this question, and that is, we would love to help you to have your vision for math education.
You have a follow-up? Okay, thank you, Senator Thomas, for that question. I think it really sums up our conversation today about where we go from here. And we'll continue our conversation. Thank you all for your presentation, and I'm sure we will be talking again.
Beautiful. Happy to be your venue,
Yeah.
your vehicle for making your vision come to.
Next on our agenda, we have a presentation on the impact of instructional coaching on teacher effectiveness, recruitment, and retention. And I think this is a perfect segue into what we just talked about. So please come forward. And I want to thank Vice Chair Truitt for his suggestion on this. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about this and shared the fine work that's being done in your area. So please, like I said, make sure the green lights are on, make sure the microphones are pulled close to you. If you will identify yourself for the record, I'll swear you in, then we can begin.
Hello, I am Angie Keene, and I am a retired educator. Michelle Shelley Winterberg for New Teacher Center.
My name is Lindsay Wilson. I'm a teacher coach with New Teacher Center, and I'm also a teacher at McKee Elementary School.
Okay.
I'm Melissa Conlon, and I am an instructional coach with SESC Co-op.
My name is Tori Anders, and I am a lead instructional coach as well as a literacy specialist at SESC Southeast South Central Educational Cooperative.
Okay, thank you. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Yes. Thank you all so much, and please proceed with your presentation.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is it possible to get our deck up here?
Is somebody in staff?
Close that, and it's already loaded.
All right, you ready? All right, very good. Please proceed.
First of all, we want to thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share some of the work we've done and the impact that we've seen from the instructional coaching work in the Southeast South Central region of Kentucky. Again, I'm Angie King. I had the honor, pleasure to lead a project which involved a group of teachers who were turned instructional coaches, and they transformed the way we support teachers in our region, and I'm very proud of that work. I'm recently retired, and I am pursuing another passion, a newfound passion of mine, and that's being a grandma.
And I'm Shelley Winterberg, Director of Programs for New Teacher Center. This is my 9th year with New Teacher Center. The last 3 years have been supporting this work that we're going to tell you about in just a minute through SESC. My profession turned very personal when I sent my firstborn off to kindergarten at JCPS. So now I am a proud mom of a JCPS student as well as a very, very proud educator of this work.
Again, I'm Lindsay Wilson, and I'm a coach with New Teacher Center, and I also am a teacher at McKee Elementary School.
I'm Melissa Conlon. I've had the opportunity to work across the region as an instructional coach in Mr. Truitt's building, and that kind of opened the door for us to be able to get some of this work done up there. But I am excited to be here and have the opportunity to share some of the work that we have had going on in our region.
Again, I am Tori Anders, and my title on there says lead instructional coach, but I am one of the only one of us up here that has actually done both sides of the work that we're going to tell you, where I have actually supported the teachers, and then on the other side of that, supported the coaches in the districts as well. So really excited about that.
Just wanted to start our time telling a little bit about who New Teacher Center is as an organization. New Teacher Center is an educational nonprofit committed to ensuring an equitable education for all of our students. New Teacher Center currently works in 22 states, 400 districts of all sizes. We support 25,000 teachers. Our reach includes 1.8 million students, and also includes 8,000 plus instructional leaders. We're constantly increasing these numbers, so check back soon because I'm certain that they'll be moving up as well. We work across the country in districts, like I said, of all sizes. I gave you just a little bit of the national level, and then Angie's going to talk us through what does New Teacher Center's work look like as we think about Kentucky.
In 2019, Southeast South Central Cooperative had the privilege to join partnership with New Teacher Center on an educational research and innovation grant. We were the sub-grantees, and the research was, does this proven coaching mentor model that New Teacher Center has researched for years, does it work in our rural areas in our state of Kentucky? So when we began this journey, I'll call it, we reached out to our superintendents, and we had 10 districts who automatically jumped on this journey with us because they are seeing such an influx of new teachers every year. A lot of those teachers being alternative certified teachers. and they are seeing the pressures of supporting those teachers in their first years. So they began this journey with us, and because it was a research grant, we had to go through a randomization process. So 22 schools across those 10 districts are a part of the research that we gathered. The other schools in those districts were our control schools and received treatment later, and we'll talk about that scale a little later on. We are very proud to say, I will not be a part of this because I did retire, but there is a scale up year this year, and it was voluntary basis. And because of the positive work that we've had in our region, all 10 of our districts who were a part of our work are continuing in some form of that work. And we have at least 3 other districts who have asked to sign on the work. And that will allow us to reach out to many, many more schools and teachers.
And this is really the how behind the work. As we thought about this work in Kentucky, we really thought about what can we do strategically to make sure that this work expands, but also that it's sustainable. So like you can see on the slide here, it was a huge focus of ours to really think about the sustainable, cost-effective piece of this. It was a huge lever of ours to really call on our school leaders. They're the instructional leaders in buildings. So it was a gigantic focus of ours to really lean into them, offer our support to them as they support teachers, and then as teachers support students. Also thinking about the selection process, it was very important for us to have capacity built in the school setting. So what are we doing to make sure that we're building up capacity, building up leadership within the teachers in buildings so they become the coaches who are supporting teachers and then supporting students. Also thinking about what does the instructional support look like that we're offering. We're not just offering professional development, but we're really embedding that idea of this is on-the-job training. So you had this professional learning. Let's come alongside you and do this work together. So those were the strategic practices that we really used to get the impacts that we're going to share in just a minute.
Shelley shared the how. I'm going to share a little bit of the why. The why is our students deserve effective teachers. But our current reality is that oftentimes that's not happening. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but a few of the ones that kind of jumped out at me was that new teachers are leaving the classroom at a rate between 19 and 30%. 90% of open teaching positions are created by teachers that are leaving the profession, and only a third of that 90% is attributed to retirement. That's scary numbers to me. I have kids in public education, and it's scary to me to see these numbers. On average, alternative certified teachers leave the profession within 3 years. So we give them that 3 years worth of training, we work with them, and then they leave. And so that in itself is just scary when we're thinking about our own kids and the kids across the state. Shelley, if you want to go on. So thinking about this question, what are the factors that motivate them to stay, aside from salary and benefits? When we look at the Impact Kentucky Working Conditions Survey, one of the big things is working relationships. And as we worked with our teachers and staff and administrators, those were some of the things that we focused on. The clarity of the expectations, voice and decision making, positive work environments, and support being in the center, because teachers need that support, especially those alternate certified teachers. The support is huge, whether it be from someone outside coming in like us, or whether it be someone working with them in their building, coaching them for that support. And then that sense of belonging. In the next few slides of your packet, we're gonna pop them up there. I'm not gonna read them to you, but we have voice from the field, from teachers and from administrators who have shared ways that their feelings about how these things can be addressed or have been addressed through our project and through our work. And so we did want to share some of those with you. There is one from a curriculum coach at Dwight, our DWIT, and then we have one from East Bernstein, and she's a classroom teacher. So we tried to embed a few from different entities within the school systems. You can see we build those relationships, and it addresses many of the concerns that were mentioned in that survey. And then I'm going to turn over to Shelley for her to continue talking about a few of the other pieces.
So we've all seen the teacher numbers around. We've all seen the teacher numbers around retention. That's no secret. But what we really think about at the national level, and what we're really proud of is with New Teacher Center, is we have increased our retention rates from 72% to 94% in those classrooms where New Teacher Center was the support for teachers. On the left side of the slide, you can see at our very core, we believe that empowered teachers are the heart and souls of a thriving classroom. And because we co-create this process, it really gives teachers an equal stake in their building of the school culture. This came from an I3 study, 2016 research. So this is our pre-COVID data. We're super excited because NTC and our SESC grant work has partnered with an outside research team. So we've turned our data over June 1st. SRI International is currently doing all of our data analysis, and we'll have those results as soon as we possibly can. So we're happy to share those as soon as they become available. And the hope is that our retention data will be up here, and we'll be able to move this on over. So excited about that, hot off the press. And now to bring it to the local level. So that was a national retention statistic. Over the past 3 years, SESC and the SESC NTC partnership has coached 168 teachers. Of those 168, 98.2 of those teachers have stayed in the profession. So we're super, super excited about that. And really all of that goes back to the power of having a coach. NTC is also highly invested in student achievement, as we all are. Again, from the same federal grant study of I3 that I shared earlier, we have research saying that teachers with New Teacher Center support that were in classrooms with students, those students achieved an additional 2 to 5 months of learning in math and an additional 2 to 4 months of additional learning in ELA, as supported by standardized test results. So again, we're super hopeful that our research will be the research that lays right on the side of this research as soon as we have that back. And to bring it to the local level, we had the pleasure of supporting Whitley County Intermediate School from their 4th, 5th, and 4th and 5th grade folks. The highlighted teachers are teachers that we're working with in professional learning communities in our project, and you can see the percentages of distinguished and proficient scores in both reading and math across 4th and 5th grade. So a big point of pride for ours. A very real piece of that data, and like we said, we're hopeful to share the big pieces of our data once we have that back.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we know. We have all heard about all of the alternative certifications. We are very informed about those things because a lot of the teachers that we get to support and a lot of the principals and superintendents that I get to talk to on a daily basis are really alarmed about the alternative ed teachers that they have in their buildings. But then also now we have an option 9. When we started to do some research around the Option 9 statute that was sort of put in place last year, the one thing that really jumped out to us in the bill was use experienced teachers employed by the district to provide coaching and mentorship. And so that sort of led us to begin to think about the work that we are doing and the work that we have done and what we're hoping for in the future as far as that, because we know based on the research and the work that we've done that that coaching piece is going to be crucial to the support of those teachers, to helping make those teachers effective in their instruction, and then also making them want to stay because they're not so overwhelmed by all of the ins and outs of what they have to do on a daily basis. Here's some things that we hear. This is a Knox County principal coach, and it says principal coach because this is a principal that we supported, but also went through our coaching training and then was also coaching teachers in the building. And so, again, we collected some of those things that we hear and that we see as we're out in the field, as we're having those conversations, as we're doing our update meetings with all of the folks that we work with. And I'm going to turn it over to this beautiful Lindsay Wilson up here.
Thank you. Again, my name is Lindsay Wilson. So I'm an NTC coach at McKee Elementary, but the title that I'm most proud to tell you today is that I'm a teacher and I love my job. I also have the unique perspective of being a person who came in as a first-year teacher 14 years ago, mentored under the KTIP program, and so now I'm a teacher working with new teachers through the NTC program. So I'm going to kind of briefly talk about the differences today and why I think the NTC program looks so promising. Over 14 years of teaching, you can surely imagine that I've seen my share of initiatives come and go. And so by this point, I've built up a pretty good sense for what's going to work in a building and what's going to stay. And I really believe that this program is going to be successful. So let me tell you kind of what that looks like from my perspective, like boots on the ground. So since my work with NTC began, I've coached 2 teachers who remain in the building as effective educators. But before I even began with coaching, I went through extensive training with the NTC Center that taught me how to coach teachers. So I wasn't just thrown into it. So I learned strategic ways to build relationships with new teachers. And I also kind of learned what kinds of conversations would actually guide new teachers into their own improvement. I also received training on Kiano, the online portal that would house all of our work together. So the training with NTC has really been second to none. So this leads me to another strength of the NTC program. If you know anybody who went through the KTIP program, you surely heard of the pages and pages and binders of documentation that teachers had to produce. And this was too much. This was totally burdensome for already overwhelmed new teachers. So if anything, in the NTC program, the burden of work is placed on me, the experienced teacher, and it comes naturally to me because I have experience. But it doesn't really seem like a burden to me. So I meet with my new teacher once a week, and the heart of the work is done through face-to-face conversation with her, not through binders. So the program is structured so that at first, she chooses the teaching domain that she wants to work on. So it's totally teacher-centered. In our work together, we will do things like reflect on her practice, we'll analyze student data, we'll access any teaching resources that she might need, or we might jump into an observation cycle. And among teachers, observation is usually a dirty word, but NTC sees it totally differently. So again, she gets to choose what she wants to focus on, and then during the observation, I'll scribe exactly that, what she wants to focus on. And then after the observation, we'll look through the script together. And my new teacher will say things like, "Oh man, I can't believe I did that. Like that was terrible with students. I'll never do that again." Or she'll say things like, "Yeah, that strategy really worked. I think I'll try that the next time." And there you go. She's the one realizing what works and doesn't work in a classroom. And that's where the growth happens. It's not just me telling her what to do. And then by this point, we've already built up a trusted relationship together. So she knows that I'm not trying to like degrade her on any mistakes she would make. I'm just there to support her. So that leads me to what I think is the most important strength of the NTC program. I am a teacher in the same building where I'm coaching new teachers. This means everything. So gone are the days where we always have to have an outside entity coming in telling teachers how to do their job. Teachers don't always like that, okay? So my new teacher sees me walking through the same doors each day as she walks through, speaking positively about my job, greeting my students with a smile on my face, teaching with enthusiasm, even when the work is really challenging. So she sees me not giving up, so she's not gonna give up. So when we meet and talk, she knows that I understand exactly what she's going through. I'm in the building with her, so I know the culture of the building. I know her students. There's really nothing that stands in our way when we work together. Last year, my new teacher told me at about December that she was seriously thinking of leaving the profession, which is what many teachers all over the state are feeling. Because I'm right there, I could check in with her every single day. And because I had the expertise, I could help her with the exact things that she was struggling with. And I'm happy to say she is coming back for a new school year this year. But not only does the NTC program benefit the new teacher, it also benefits the experienced teacher. Teachers constantly feel like nobody values us for the experience that we have. But this coaching position gives experienced teachers a renewed sense of importance, helping keep us in the profession. So this program is a win-win for new teachers and experienced teachers. The NTC program builds upon the leadership and capacity that we know is already in our school buildings. And principals have the freedom to choose who they think the strongest coaches are going to be in their building. And the growth in teacher leadership is exponential. So I started coaching a new teacher in 2020. And then now, 3 years later, she's ready to start coaching a new teacher. In the meantime, I picked up a new teacher in 2022. And in a few years, she'll be ready to coach someone else. So the leadership is just kind of branching out among the school, which is an amazing concept. We'll have powerful teacher leaders working cohesively throughout our building, and imagine the kind of impact this will have on student achievement. So I thank you for your time listening to a teacher's perspective on things and what this program actually looks like in the classroom and in the school. I hope I've helped you envision how the NTC program can make Kentucky a leader in teacher retention and leadership. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Tori, who's going to talk about finances.
Okay, so Lindsay's given you a really good overview of how that relationship works within the building. And I'm very proud to say that I'm actually Lindsay's coach. So she and I have had a lot of time to have a lot of conversations and to really work together through all of this work. And she's been amazing. So, but let's talk about what that instructional coaching is actually going to cost us as administrators, as teachers, as coaches. And there's 3 big bullets on the screen in front of you. And I'm not going to read the bottom part, but I'm going to kind of give you the connection and let you kind of begin to wonder in your mind and think about what does this really mean. So when you invest in instructional coaching the way that we know instructional coaching works, you're getting professional development to train your coaches and your school leaders and anybody else in your building or your district that you feel like has that leadership ability that might want to go in and support teachers. Always time is a factor. It's a factor here. So teachers are going to need that time to advance their practice. Coaches are going to need time to advance their coaching practices. And then when all of that comes together, you've got people that are all of a sudden they're collaborating with their peers and their colleagues. And then there are stipends for coaches, especially coaches like Lindsay, who are full-time teachers in their building. That's going to require a little bit of time outside of the classroom, outside of the instructional day. Lindsay's given up numerous planning periods to have coaching conversations with me, to plan for the conversation she's going to have with her teacher, or to sit down and reflect on her own coaching practices. So that stipend is going to be super important. I'm not going to read the bottom 4 of those because we know that all of you are educated and all of you can read, and we don't like to put that on people. But I do want you to look at what happens when you invest in those 3 big things in the instructional coaching. What you get is job-embedded professional learning and coaching. You're going to get an ongoing collaboration among the teachers in your building that are being coached. That also can be facilitated and navigated into their professional learning communities within the building. And then you get teachers who are really supported in communities of practice to be able to come to tables and talk about what happened today, what is working, what is not working, what are you doing, what can I do differently tomorrow. And so when we think about slide number 6, and we start to look at what teachers are telling us that they need in order to stay in this profession, you have a partnership and a support system that really doesn't just impact that teacher that's being coached or the coach, but now all of a sudden it's impacting an entire school. It can impact an entire district when it's done with fidelity. So now let's talk about what instructional coaching yields. We know what it's going to cost. Now let's talk about what you're going to get. What are the benefits from that? And again, I'm not going to read all of these that you see on the screen, but I would like to highlight at least 4 of those because we have kind of surfaced those today. We have found in our research that they are really what's important to teachers to get them to want to stay, but also to build that capacity for them to be very effective in our classrooms. And so I'm going to start with the first one. All of us want improved teaching performance and a better articulated curriculum. And through our work, we have those conversations with teachers. We talk about standards. We talk about standard aligned tasks. We talk about how are they going to teach this standard aligned task, and then how are you going to scaffold and chunk that information and how you teach it to all of the learners that you have in your classroom and all of their abilities, high or low. And then we talk about number 4, a wider repertoire of instructional skills and strategies for teachers to draw upon. And then the one that goes with it right underneath it, a better grasp of best practices in teaching and learning. And you guys have heard Lindsay say today that it also impacts a teacher that is a veteran teacher. We sort of have a saying in our team and our project that every teacher deserves a coach. And I spent 18 years in the classroom as a high school English teacher. And man, if someone had come to me and said, hey, I'd like to give you a coach, even at year 18, I would have said, yes, absolutely. So everybody is impacted positively when you talk about the coaching. And then I'd like to talk about the bottom 2, the improved school culture and a more positive learning environment. We know that through this work, with that ongoing embedded professional development, through the PLC work, and just through the partnership and the relationships that our teachers and our coaches and we form with the schools and the districts that we work in, that school culture really is improved. And we have teachers, just like Lindsay said, that she wanted to leave at Christmas, but she didn't, because of the culture and the relationship that Lindsay built with her. And then all of us are in this room because we want improved outcomes for the kids, especially those kids that we see in the state of Kentucky in our classrooms every single day. And at the center of all of the work that we do at the co-op, at the center of all the work that NTC does, we always have the kids that is centered in that. And so what I would like to do to kind of touch base around what I just said is to leave everybody with sort of a thought today about the coaching. When we look back at slide 7 and we talk about our current reality, our teacher shortage, our teacher rollover, the fact that so many of our teachers could retire, and if they all retired in Kentucky, we'd be in even deeper problems than what we have right now as far as our job openings and our opportunities. But on slide 7, when we talked about that current reality, we have a heart in the center of that. And the first 2 words in the center of that is our students. And NTC and the co-op and all of our schools and districts, it really is at the heart of our work that we center our students. But in order to center students in the work that we do every day, we have to think about the last 2 words in that heart, which are our effective teachers. And if we can't center the teachers and the humanity of those teachers and what they need and putting those in front of the kids, then it's really hard for us to center our students and those outcomes. So that puts us to the end. I, on behalf of all of my colleagues up here, want to say thank you so much for allowing us to give you some information today about what we do and the wonderful work that we've done and the research we've collected. And then you'll find all of our information there if you need it.
Well, thank all of you for your presentation today. It's been very informative. We do have some members with questions, but I'm going to cut it off at what I've got now due to time constraints on the members. Let's start out with Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. With the new Teacher Center, you did such a great job answering some of the questions that I was building on, but the face-to-face, it sounds like you're in the facility, very teacher-centered, so you already have your own direct instruction that you're responsible for, in addition to supporting the teacher. A couple questions to that. You mentioned a stipend. Is that stipend one that is attractive and will continue to retain you as a coach? And is that perhaps even, how do you finance that? And this could be a superintendent type of question. Are there folks no longer in central office that were able to put those dollars into the school to help with a stipend?
Well, I guess I'll speak on that first. So I already believe in the work. So, I mean, that just helps from the get-go that I think it's effective work. And it even helps me as a teacher because I'm building up other teachers that are around me. So even if I'm not receiving a stipend, I'm going to want to do it because it makes our school stronger. But yes, a stipend would be appreciated and attractive to any teacher as they're doing this work in their building. And how that happens, I'll have to turn that over to Tori or Shelley to explain.
Or Angie, I can talk a little bit through the co-op, but when we looked at the grant, one of the things that we wanted was to be able to give the teachers something. So they did get a small stipend for their training, but if we are going to ask teachers to do the extra work of supporting new teachers, then I think that needs to be a discussion that we have, is how do we find the money to support those teachers who are going above and beyond? Where can that money come from to pay these teachers a stipend? Lindsay's not going to say it, but Lindsay basically did this work for 3 years without a stipend. She had some money for going to summer trainings, but the stipends were not there. But just like she said, she believes in the work, and we have, I'm thinking at the end, we ended up with 40 coaches, and about probably 50% of those were teachers that were doing this work without a stipend. And they stayed in it for 3 years because they saw the power.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, the certain large administrative support, yet you're putting students first. And that's what we're here for. You suggested teachers, 25,000, and instructional leaders, 8,000. What is the difference of a teacher and an instructional leader? And can we truly reach back into, I think we heard earlier, 170,000 or 170 districts in Kentucky. Can some of those districts reallocate dollars into this very meaningful, clearly science-based success?
I'm thinking, if I'm thinking correctly, that the slide you're referencing was back with new teacher centers reach. Is that correct? So when we're thinking about instructional leaders, we're really thinking about school-based building leaders, and then obviously teachers being instructional leaders in their classroom. So that was the differentiation piece there. Does that clarify your question?
So not the actual coaches that we're talking about. So such a successful model. Those are included in the 25,000 teachers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next, we have Representative Timoney.
Thank you, Chairman. Excellent presentation today. Outstanding job. I've always been a firm believer that mentorship is a huge ROI. I mean, it's, the statement is retention is the new recruitment in education, and that's very, very true. I think it's also important for us to recognize the significance of the mentorship piece with the previous presentation, as far as increasing our mathematics instruction. I think there's something definitely there. But I think most importantly, I think back to my first year and second year as a teacher, and that internship time period, or that beginning time period where I thought, hey, I'm doing this now. At any point I could go to law school. At any point I could go into pretty much just any other profession. It was the classroom management piece that I think the mentorship is you're not going to see a lot of the attention to it as far as the instructional, but it has a direct instructional piece there. So I think that's going to be the biggest part for me if I was advocating for this program. It's for the classroom management, and you can read in a book what to do, but until you're faced with it face to face, you have to go through those experiences. There's no way to overcome that. And I know we can, Chair West, you had mentioned something earlier about our teacher prep programs. There's something different about standing on an island by yourself in front of 30 kids and doing the job. And that's it. You have to go through it in order to do it. And I think that's something that's really, really important. And any safety nets we can put in place, like mentorships, the better off they're going to be. And skilled up before they enter the classroom in the beginning. To take this a step farther, I believe that our teacher evaluation system needs to have a mentorship piece involved in it. I think our current evaluation system is too admin heavy. And I think that the peer interaction piece can definitely have value for teachers to improve. And it's more constant, and it's every day, and it's more consistent. And I think that there's something there. And I think there's a big idea in my head that's brewing that's going to incorporate both of those. But Ms. Wilson, I did have a specific question for you. Obviously, you're at McKee Elementary School, which is a blue ribbon school. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's clear to see why you are, in spite of your school leadership. Would you care to share any flaws of your school principal? For the record.
No, sir, I have nothing to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
If we could be concise with our questions, next is Representative Decker.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do appreciate all that you all had to say. It was wonderful. I think what you do, I've known coaches and I've known teachers who were coached, and I just can't imagine the impact that has. I went to teaching college about 3 decades ago and graduated with lots of the strategies, et cetera. Yes, I think when you get in the school after a teaching college, you need refresh. It is, Representative, so different in front of people. But I am concerned, putting this together with the last presentation, about the thought that teachers are not coming out ready to go in the classroom as much. So I'm thinking about what our teaching colleges. We spend a lot of money there as a state. So I look up the University of Kentucky College Department of Curriculum and Instruction. That is where I think we should have a lot of this training. But when I look at their mission statement and their vision statement, it's not about what we're talking about here today. So their mission statement is they're committed to advancing social justice through research, teaching, and service alongside students and communities they serve. We engage in reflective practices, and this is the mission, to educate educators, researchers, and professionals to build a more equitable world. I don't hear any classroom instruction. And then the vision is to prepare the next generation of teachers to be globally minded professionals. So that wasn't the focus when I was there. And when we look back 14 years, I believe you said, since you've graduated, I feel like maybe we should have some more instructional practices taught there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Final word from Vice Chair Truitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Girls, thank you. You did a great job. I do want to just elaborate just a little bit. I am blessed to be at a very successful elementary school, a low socioeconomic school that struggles in a lot of ways, but when it comes to academic performance, we're towards the top. And it's because of people like Lindsay that's in my building, and that mentorship that she's talking about. This works in my building. That's the reason I wanted them here to kind of talk about what we could do as a state to get this in every single building. You've got to have good mentors there that are there for the right reason, teaching the right things. And one of the best things, kind of Representative Timoney talked a little bit about this, is, I try to get in my classrooms every day. So when I see something that I'm not, that I know is not working really well, whether it be classroom discipline or questioning strategies, then this gives me a go-to. I can go to Lindsay, I can go to Missy, I can go to any of these girls here and say, you know what, this teacher here is struggling in this area. If you don't care, talk to them about it. And we have a lot of discussions like that. So it does, and it's a lot easier as a teacher for that to come from someone other than their supervisor. And I've seen that work in numerous instances. So I appreciate what you do. I think we as a state need to figure out what this is going to cost to do this statewide. I know SESC is doing it in our region and in a lot of districts, but I promise you, speaking as a administrator, if you've got this in your building, it will help. So thank you, girls.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all, and I know some other members had some comments, but we have other items on the agenda we have to get to. Thank you all so much
Thank you.
for your presentation. Look forward to continuing this conversation. Next, we have Jefferson County Public Schools is here with us today to share about what's going on, some new policies on student achievement. So, Dr. Polio.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
While they're coming, could I just make a statement, please? You cut off the questions, and
I did. I cut off questions due to time constraints, and I understand I had some other. We've got this item in admin. We really do not have. We're short on time. I apologize, Representative Brown. Dr. Polio, if y'all could identify yourself for the record, and then we'll swear you in and proceed.
Sure. Marty Polio, Superintendent, Jefferson County Public Schools.
Tara Greenwell, Chief Academic Officer, Jefferson County Public Schools.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Great. Thank you all for having us here today. I often come here and people say, oh, that's going to be hard for you, but I do truly enjoy being in front of you and being able to talk, especially at this point, about the major changes that we've made in Jefferson County Public Schools. And I'll try to be brief. One of the things that I think we've done very well over the past couple years is make necessary changes like never before. I think we've made more changes of any large urban district in the United States over the past 2 or 3 years. What I probably have not done a good job is those that may be outside of kind of our ecosystem in our district is talking about the major changes that we have made. And really it comes around what I call our future state. 26 years ago to the week, 26 years ago, I began teaching at Shawnee High School in West Louisville. I was a social studies teacher and a basketball coach, and loved it there. But that was 26 years ago. When I got the superintendent job, I was interim for a year, and it took me about a year to get my feet under me, know what I was doing, and prepared to do this job. In 2019, I reflected on there had been very little change in JCPS over 4 decades. There had been programs come and go, initiatives in schools, but very little substantive change to the district. We got a team together and worked about a 3-day retreat where we said, what are the major changes we need to make in JCPS? If we're going to do 3 things, which is number 1, improve student outcomes. Number 2, really we knew part of that was improving student attendance, and then also improving the experience that kids have. But it was all based upon truly changing student outcomes. And when I say not much had changed in 40 years, I truly mean that. I reflected back to my first day on the job, and I look back and very little had changed. So we underwent a vision planning about the things that we were going to change, and we called it our future state. And it was really around making major changes to the foundation of Jefferson County Public Schools. In February of 2020, I gave a State of the District address, similar to what Senator Thomas talked about in Fayette County to start. We do ours in February, and really talked about this future state and the changes that we were going to make. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after that, COVID hit, and it changed our lives for many years. For a few weeks into that time, a couple of months, I'm a believer in, sometimes you have to focus on the urgent versus the important. We had to focus on the urgent. But after a couple of months in the COVID pandemic, we also realized we can't wait till this is over. We've got to make these changes now. And I tell you that because we are right now at the apex, the point in which we have passed all of these changes in our district, massive changes that are very, very difficult. Change is hard. Obviously, in a large district, the larger district, the harder it becomes to make that change. But we have made that substantive change. Now, over this summer, we are at the point of execution, where we are having to execute all of these changes at the same time. So I would contend this. There has not been a summer of greater change in Jefferson County Public Schools since the summer of 1976, when the city and the county districts consolidated. And desegregation or busing occurred at that time. I would say that's the number one change that's taken place. This summer is the second greatest change. And I just wanted to highlight some of those for you so that you know. Then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Greenwell so she can focus on literacy and the changes we have made around literacy in the district this summer as well. And I would put that up against any district in the Commonwealth for the changes that we have made. And so first, let's talk about some of these major changes. And I know it seems like just a laundry list of changes, but I once again want to say this is what we called our future state. First and foremost, a new student assignment plan. I think there's been a lot of folks that have been lamenting the student assignment plan for years, including myself. One of the most inequitable student assignment plans, I think, in the nation, which I believe was forcing students to go to schools outside of their neighborhood for the sake of diversity when it was only one group of students, predominantly students of color, in West Louisville who were forced to leave their neighborhood, and it wasn't their family's choice. For the first time ever, that has changed this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Differentiated start times. We had no choice in that matter. With the resources that we've had to make sure that we add start times. We might be the only large district in the United States that only has 2 start times, and it was negatively impacting our students and their attendance, and I'll talk briefly about that. Third, we're implementing weapons detection systems in our high schools to start this coming year. It won't be on the first day, but within about 6 weeks of the start of school, we'll have new artificial intelligence weapons detectors in our schools. Updated facilities, I've lamented that for many years. We're opening 2 brand new school buildings next week. We opened 2 at the start of last year, and a multitude more to come soon. And then curriculum, which first and foremost, I have to thank you. I really do. You know, for years that has been on the site-based councils to make curriculum decisions. I believe you made the right decision in allowing that to be superintendent, central office decisions, so that a school district, I think all school districts should be that way, but just like ours, we can have a curriculum across all schools that is the same, and we can support as a district that is better for kids. So first and foremost, student assignment. We created a choice zone. Like I said, in the early 80s in Jefferson County Public Schools, the decision was made that students who live close to their home everywhere but West Louisville could go close to home. Those students in West Louisville, though, were forced to leave their community for the sake of diversity. And so I have said for many years, I believe that's a system that is inequitable and it's not right for students. And we had to make that change. And so, for instance, I live close to Atherton High School in Louisville. My daughter's now graduated, but before that, if I wanted to walk her up the street to Atherton High School, I could enroll her as a student in Atherton showing proof of residence. A family that lives on 41st and Market Street in West Louisville and can see Shawnee High School from their house could not walk across the street and enroll their child. That child would be required to go to Pleasure Ridge Park High School in South Louisville, which was about 15 to 20 miles away. I think it had a negative impact on student belonging. I know it had a negative impact on attendance. I could go on and on. Well, we created a choice zone, which allows students who have not had that choice before to stay close to home if they want to, or to once again leave their community, because we have a wide array of magnet choices where every single family has a multitude of choices in JCPS. But we also knew we had to staff and we had to support with appropriate resources schools that may be concentrations of poverty. I firmly believe that that is what has to happen in education. Those that have less resources in their home need to have more resources in their schools. For the first time ever, we have differentiated resources in our schools to match the poverty level. For the first time ever, we're having teachers that go to our choice zone schools receive an $8,000 stipend. Principals who go to a high-need school in a choice zone will get a $10,000 stipend. So we're paying our employees, our educators, more for those that need it. But I want to be clear about this, and this continues to be a narrative in our community. But for the first time ever, especially K-6 and 9, but we're moving through our entire system, every child in Jefferson County Public Schools has the opportunity to go to a school close to their home. And that has not happened since 1976. We have now better feeder patterns where they're predictable between middle and high schools. Our middle schools, instead of now an 8th grade class, going to 12 different high schools may only go to 1 or 2 high schools, like I believe it is meant to be, so the middle school and high school can work together on transition, and then really focusing on student and parent choice. I can't say this enough. Most families have 10 to 12 options in Jefferson County, from reside schools to a wide variety of magnet schools throughout our district, whether it be Magnet, the Academies of Louisville, which is a reflection on what career and technical education, extremely successful and national model around how we get kids in career and technical education. But once again, this has proven to be a very popular option. Families in West Louisville, about 80% of our elementary and middle school families have chosen to stay close to home as their option in West Louisville. And then we have about 40% of our high school families. And I think those numbers are numbers everyone would understand. As a student gets older, it may leave their community. This is going to make a major impact on our district and was long overdue. Secondly, our Start Smart. Once again, I told you we had 2 start times. We had a 7:40 start time for middle and high school and a 9:05 start time for elementary school. What it meant was we had about 750 bus routes. We started the year last year with 670 bus drivers. That's not a good formula for getting kids on time. We are a district. Every district is wrestling with this. Some districts have chosen to cancel bus routes and say, we just are not going to be able to transport you today. That's happening throughout the Commonwealth. We decided, on the other hand, we would pick students up, although it might be late. In the 22-23 school year, we had about 20,000 students miss instructional time because of transportation issues. We had a lack of efficiency. We had kids missing school, and it was just something that we could not continue to do. So instead of doing the same thing, what we decided to do was to add about 10 start times, which we know is a change for many families. But now, for the first time in many years, we have more drivers than we have routes. And it is going to ensure no double or triple runs. Kids will be to school on time. They will get home shortly afterwards. And yes, it's a difficult change for the community, but it is much needed for student achievement. And so we have asked our community, yes, this is going to be a change, but it is really important for our kids and for achievement that we do the right thing. And once again, I'll say this, there are some legislatures across the country, Florida being the most recent, who passed a bill that adolescent students, middle and high schools, can't start before 8:30 a.m. because research is clear. Early starts for adolescents is not healthy. All of our adolescent students, middle and high, have started at 7:40 for probably 40 to 50 years. Many are getting on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's not healthy for kids. So now, for the first time, we're going to be moving 25 to 30,000 of our adolescent students to an 8:40 start time. Research is clear on the impact on student attendance and student outcomes with that. I said facilities. I told you we had 4 new facilities. We have the first school in West Louisville opening up this century, 25 years. The first school in West Louisville. We'll be cutting the ribbon on next week. That says a lot about our lack in Jefferson County, our lack of investment in West Louisville schools, but we have made that investment. We will be building a new middle school there as well. In the next decade, we plan on building 20 new schools as well, because quite candidly, our facilities are an embarrassment to our community, and they are nowhere near the facilities of Fayette County. Fayette County has invested in their facilities. Jefferson County has not. For the first time we have done that in many years. We are seeing major changes, and we are focusing on the kids who need it the most. So instead of focusing just on PTAs to make sure that our kids have playgrounds, we are giving all of our high poverty school brand new playgrounds. We have not invested in our athletic facilities. I would invite any of you to drive to a high school in Fayette County and look at their athletic facilities, and then drive to a school in Jefferson County and look at JCPS's athletic facilities. It's an embarrassment for our students and our community, and we are making that change because this, yes, athletic facilities are support, but kids take pride in their facilities, and it's symbolic of how much the community cares when a kid gets to their school and sees what type of facilities they have. weapons detection system, it's very controversial. It's been a challenge for us, obviously, as a board and as a community. One of the biggest changes I've seen in my 26 years in JCPS, without a doubt, it's always been an issue, but the amount of kids who have access to handguns in our community. That is across the nation right now in urban districts. We're on the Council of the Great City Schools, top 80 schools in the nation by enrollment, and each and every one of us, every time we get together, lament the challenges that we face to keep our schools safe. We made the decision, our board did, to implement weapons detection. It's artificial intelligence to detect handguns specifically, and it moves kids through these weapons detectors at the beginning of the day quickly with minimal disruptions. We've seen some other districts where we've gone to visit, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Duval County, and Jacksonville, who have implemented the same systems and seen about a 90% reductions in weapons detection. But this is another huge challenge for us as we move forward. So as you can see, all of these things are just major changes that have all come to a head this year. I believe in 5 years it will be the difference maker in outcomes for JCPS. However, the next one you will hear will probably be the largest change we've made, which is to tackle a literacy and curriculum across 155 schools and ensuring that we are implementing curriculum at every school. If a kid goes from one school to the next, they have the same literacy curriculum, and it clearly follows Senate Bill 1 from 2022, passed by you all, which is ensuring that we have high-quality literacy curriculum. So this is a huge change for us. I'd like to introduce Dr. Tara Greenwell, who has been leading this charge, and she will talk about the work we've been doing in JCPS.
Thank you all. I'm excited to be here today as a proud graduate of Kentucky Public Schools, and my own two boys are also in JCPS as well. So this is both a passion of mine personally and professionally. So let's talk literacy. So what is literacy? It is the creative and analytical ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, compute, all of the things sometimes that we forget it is. It's not just reading a book. It's also looking at career and technical education manuals. It's looking at how-to signs. It's looking at transportation on the interstate and understanding that we know how to interpret that and therefore make a decision. So how? The development of literacy skills is on a continuum, which means that from birth, the exposure to letters and sounds is important, but also as we get older, literacy transforms to whatever we might need it to be, especially the last few years with a shift to digital literacy and making sure that we understand those needs for our students. And why I think all of us in this room agree, it's a moral imperative. Literacy gives us the ability to share our experiences, to learn from one another, and to be better citizens for this country and this world. So there are 5 components of literacy, and oftentimes you hear folks maybe say, I'm taking a balanced approach. But the struggle with balanced is if you don't focus on all 5, it's not truly balanced. And that's kind of what we saw the last few months as I've been working in JCPS since taking this role in January. So the 5 components: phonemic awareness, phonics, which leads to fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. So if you don't have those foundational skills to understand sound combinations and letter recognition, you can't build to that fluency, which leads to better vocabulary, which then leads to our ultimate goal of comprehension. So when we started digging into data, looking at JCPS students and also national trends, we noticed very clearly that the data suggested that for students who did not master the foundational literacy skills, by the end of 2nd grade, their chance to improve their reading ability or reach reading proficiency is scant, which indicated that we have to have a clear focus on foundational literacy, and that's why we've taken a much more structured approach to the way that we tackle it. So the implications for teaching, after looking at data, national implications, and our own students in JCPS, reading is science. And I had this conversation with principals and trainings that we've led this past summer. It's not magic. It's not magic that we just learn to read. When we are born, our ability to speak or talk to one another is innate in us, but the ability to read and look at words and interpret them as language is not. So as we are ever evolving in education, we have to pay attention to the research and science, but also practitioner experience as well. So that also leads us to believe that foundational skills matter. Without those two that we discussed in the big five, phonemic awareness and phonics, we can't sustain higher level text. You'll see that struggle when we look at a lot of districts that may see reading scores decline in middle and high school, because as text complexity increases and they didn't have the foundations that they need, that's where we see low reading comprehension. And it also led us to see that Tier 1, and I have a triangle here to show that Tier 1 means all students are exposed. That's your core curriculum. That means when a teacher is in front of their classroom, that is the curriculum that they start with before it leads to seeing if a student needs interventions. We found that Tier 1, or the first exposure, really needs to be strong, building background knowledge to enhance that reading experience for our students. So the problems and the steps to a solution based on district data, practitioner research, recent legislation, we've made some shifts. We now have a comprehensive K-12 literacy plan. We have a consistent foundational literacy experience for students through our new curriculum. K-2 has a structured approach that really tackles phonics and phonemic awareness. And then we also have a Tier 1 or core ELA curriculum now all the way up through our 8th grade. So our response to those literacy shifts, thanks to Senate Bill 1, it gave us the ability to really take a look at our Tier 1 instruction, especially for ELA and math. What we did was we looked at high quality instructional resources. We formed committees to make sure that, unlike some other districts, we did want to make some changes, and we saw that we needed to ensure that there was high quality instructional resources at every single grade level. So with that consistent approach, we settled on something called Expeditionary Learning, or EL. It is a green lit, which means it is top quality program through Ed Reports, and also highly recommended across the state and nationally as well. What that gave us was a consistent approach to all of our students. We have a transient population of students, which will hopefully some of the start times and the shifts to our student assignment plan will help, but we also know that our students, no matter where they go, should have the same high quality instruction just in spite of the school that they are at. We also chose IM, or illustrative mathematics. I was excited to hear that mathematics is going to be a focus across the state as well, and so we are ahead of the game in that regard. We have trained 5,000 at this point in time. By the time we're in September, 5,000 spots have been held to ensure that our teachers get the literacy training that they need for the new curriculum, as well as math support. In response to Senate Bill 9, Read to Succeed Act, we now have a K-12 literacy handbook with supports for our multilingual learners. As you know, we have about 17,000 multilingual learners in JCPS. If we were to stack that with other districts, we're about the 4th largest just with our multilingual learners. So we are having to take some really strong and structured supports for our students to ensure that it's embedded and not just a separate thing. We also have a K-12 literacy monitoring tool that I've presented to every single principal that they are implementing this year, which has them creating a literacy support team in their schools. It has them looking at their high quality resources. It also has them looking at intervention plans for our students. As part of that Read to Succeed Act, we have the K-3 Foundational Reading Skills Improvement Plan included in that. We also have our reading diagnostic and screener through MAP Reading Fluency to address any diagnostics when they take the screener. Now we know exactly how to target what that student needs in the next steps. And we also have included the Read at Home plan through KDE to address how our families can help their students from an early age throughout adolescence to meet the needs. So there is more to come. We are working on a K-12 comprehensive math plan as well, full execution of our future state, and then in the end, improve student outcomes. This will be the first year that our kindergartners are exposed to a structured support where they can get the literacy foundations they need. So just imagine what that's going to look like in 3rd grade and as we build momentum going forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Greenwell. And I do want to underscore once again, 5,000 teachers being trained. This was high quality training, multiple days. And so that was a huge lift as well to prepare for that. But we're very proud of the changes we've made. Clearly, without a doubt now, our job is to execute. we're going to execute these changes, and it's not going to be perfect. There will be challenges along the way. Our job is to make changes as we go, as we execute these, and then a real intense focus on student outcomes, as you can see. So I'm proud of where we are. Still, once again, challenges ahead of us, but I think the future is bright for Jefferson County Public Schools and students, and pleased to take any questions or comments that you have.
Thank you, Dr. Polio, Dr. Greenwell. Appreciate your time today and your input. We do have 6 members who are on the list for question. I'm going to cut it off there due to time. I'm going to ask each member to keep your comments very concise and limit you to one question, please. Let's start with Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, so thank you very much. And I have more of a statement than a question. I'll make it concise. So I just want to compliment you, Dr. Polio, on the changes that you've made regarding literacy in the district. And that first major decision was to bring in Dr. Greenwell. She's phenomenal as far as guiding our academics, and I'm very grateful. We've selected MAP Fluency. I think not only will it be diagnostic, it will also help us, and I encourage my colleagues will kind of watch it. It will help us know which children can read, and then which children who can read have trouble with the comprehension bit, because we always say their test scores are low, they can't read, but a lot of children can read. So the selection of the EL curriculum with the foundational skills and the knowledge building, it's equally important with the foundational skills. And the ability to just turn around the district in the amount of time that you did, and to implement the new curriculum and the training. I've done the EL training. I had a meeting in my building yesterday to talk about implementing EL with the 5th grade. I'll tell you, the teachers on the ground are ready to roll their sleeves up. They're digging into it, and they're ready to roll. So I'm very grateful and appreciative for the work that you've done on this, and I couldn't be more pleased. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Representative Wilner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation, both of you. This is just an astonishing amount of change. It's a lot for the community to absorb, and I know these changes were underway before the pandemic hit, and I just want to commend you for moving full speed ahead on really very significant changes. As you've said, over 50 years. We've been needing new schools, new bus route, new start times for our kids to get enough sleep, and I know I need to keep it brief. So I'll want to ask you to talk a little more about English language learners. I know that in my house district, the fastest growing population is people who are not native English speakers. I know that's both a strength and a challenge for JCPS, and I'm interested to hear you say more about what we're doing with these students.
Sure, I'll be brief and let Dr. Greenwell take that. That's under her umbrella, as most things are. But once again, nearly 17,000 English language learners. And one of the things we are trying to change is the belief that that is a deficit and instead an asset. It's an asset to the school community. It's an asset to the community as a whole. And it is very challenging because of the accountability model and the amount of weight that is placed on English language learners. And I just would ask any of you, if we went to another country and we're having to take a proficiency test in their language in 24 months, we would all probably struggle as well. And so that is a challenge when it comes to accountability. But with incredible growth, we're looking at it as an asset and how we can support. But I'd like Dr. Greenwell to address that.
No, and I appreciate that. It is a challenge in a lot of ways, but our teachers are willing to tackle that at this point. We are looking at it as an asset. Anytime we think of learning another language, it is a wonderfully challenging thing to do. So the fact that our students are coming in having never spoken English before and learning it means they automatically become a multilingual learner, which we believe is a wonderful thing that they can achieve that. So what we're doing is we're embedding it not just in our strategies and policies, but embedding that also in our language shift. So you'll hear us use the term multilingual learner as well to acknowledge that asset-based approach. One of the biggest things that we have done is the shift in this curriculum. Because EL is a knowledge-based and building curriculum, imagine if you were a teacher and you have a student come in that has not spoken English, it is not their native language, and they come in and you present some new content to them. Then the next day they're assessed on it. One of the beautiful things about the curriculum shift and the literacy approach that we have is that it builds content knowledge where that student learns to become an expert on something, whether it's birds or frogs or whatever it might be, before they're being asked to apply those skills. So it builds confidence in that. So we're really looking also at the way that we welcome our students through our systems, but also in the way that we use curriculum to enhance their needs and make sure that we're meeting them where they are.
Next, we have Representative Baumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few questions, but I'm only getting one. So I'll ask you about teacher pay in Jefferson County, because we have learned over the last couple of meetings that the surrounding states are paying significantly higher. And even we learned today from Senator Thomas that Fayette County, the minimum starting salary is $50,000, I believe. In Jefferson County, it's more around $47,000. So what would it mean for student outcomes that we're all very focused on if we could increase the minimum teacher pay in Jefferson County to $55,000?
We completely agree with you. So we've had 9% of increases in the past 13 months. So last year was 4%, this year was 5%. Where Jefferson County fell short was from about 2011 to 2019, where we really only had about, at any time, a half to 0% to a 1% raise on any year. And as you know, that doesn't even close to keep up with inflation. So we have given a 4% and a 5% over the past couple of years. We are committed, as Jefferson County is, to getting above that as Fayette did, to get above that 50,000. I not only think it's the floor, but I also think it's the ceiling. I want to say this about teaching. I think what is the ceiling for a young person coming in? If the ceiling to make a salary is $74,000 or $75,000 your entire career, our best and brightest may be choosing to go into other fields. So yes, it's that floor, but it's also the ceiling. But I would say there's two things that we have to address without a doubt, and it's not an or, it's an and. The job is very hard. All right, the job is extremely hard with a lot of challenges. Teachers are having to address things with kids like we never have before across this nation. And two is the pay. So I hear a lot about ors. I think it is an and I think we have to address both. And I completely agree with you that we have to be very aggressive as a state and as a district in JCPS to get that starting rate at $55,000.
Next, we have Senator Meredith.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Polio, for your presentation. I always appreciate the energy and excitement you bring to this. And,
thank you, sir.
I appreciate the job you're doing. I know it's very challenging. I particularly like the part that you're redistributing or recommitting resources to the most disadvantaged areas of your city. And I thought it was interesting. We passed Senate Joint Resolution, my resolution last session, that uses the deprivation index to possibly redirect Medicaid funds to our most disadvantaged communities. So I'd be curious, maybe an offline conversation about how you're making that determination of which communities are getting additional resources, but I commend you for that. The question I have for you is that you mentioned that nothing's changed in 40 years in Jefferson County. So education says, I can certainly believe that. Certainly things have been done, though. We know that. I think what's lacking is we start these programs, but there's never any accountability that's built into it. Mm-hmm. And you folks have spoken about accountability. You've got a very aggressive agenda here, and I commend you for it. I think it's great. But 5 years from now, what are those measures of success that will tell us that this has worked? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent question. And so we are working on measures that quite candidly, we could come and sit in front of you in 5 years and say exactly what those are, that are a combination. And I want to say this. We have this debate in education right now about educating the whole child in these success skills that are needed, from communication to collaboration to creativity. I could go on and on. We call it our backpack, versus test score and outcomes, which we've talked about. And we have to say first and foremost that not necessarily just test scores, but reading, literacy, and numeracy are critical. Can't be successful without those. The success skills are successful as well. And so we want to sit in front of you. We want to set right now our baseline goals when it comes to students who leave elementary school and middle school ready, students who leave middle school and be high school ready, and students that leave high school, and we have that definition of post-secondary readiness. That is a combination of literacy and numeracy, so reading and math scores, plus the success skills that we want our students to have. The most difficult thing is to find a way to measure that. But as accountability and self-accountability, we want to say both are critical, and we will be setting these baseline scores as we move into this to say here's where we are now, specifically with our measures of academic progress, and then in 5 years where we want to be, and be able to have goals for that and interim goals along the way, so that I could sit in front of you next August and say, here are our interim goals, this is what we met this year, or this is what we have to accelerate if we're going to reach our long-term goals. But we really want them to be about both, so that we can bring you answers to both sides of the coin.
I appreciate that. I think that's vitally important. If you can't measure your success, then what do we achieve?
Correct.
It's nothing but thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next is Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Polio, Dr. Greenwell, thank you for the presentation. And Dr. Polio, I congratulate you for thinking outside the box to benefit the kids of Jefferson County. And sometimes that's what it takes. As a lifelong educator, I say you have the toughest job in the state of Kentucky in education by far. There's not even a close second.
I would agree.
But I appreciate the enthusiasm. As Senator Meredith said, I don't know how you wake up every day with that enthusiasm, but I sure appreciate that enthusiasm. But my question is, there's talk of dividing Jefferson County into more than one school district. Why or why not is that a good idea?
Well, great question. First and foremost, I did want to say on the enthusiasm, I mean, right now, superintendency in America is really under dire attack. And so I am one of the most senior superintendents in the entire nation of our large city school districts. And over 80% of the school districts, large city school districts, have turned over since 2020, and several of them multiple times. I can't imagine doing it in a district I didn't care about. So I do this because 26 years. I mean, I care about the district and I care about this community. So that I can't imagine just being somewhere else where I didn't have roots. I am strongly opposed, as you would imagine, to dividing the district up. I think we have taken the steps that are necessary to make sure that all kids have a choice in the school that they go to, a multitude of choices. All kids can go close to home, and now we are resourcing our schools like we never have before, where we take our neediest students and make sure they have the resources and the teachers needed. By dividing our district up into a multitude of districts, I would challenge anyone to take the map of Jefferson County, and we are a housing-wise, unfortunately, very segregated housing community. I would challenge anyone to take the map and divide it up into 3 or 4 districts and find a way where we would not have one of the wealthiest school districts in the state and just absolute extreme poverty, where teachers could just go to the next district over. I don't see how it would be staffed. I don't see how it would be resourced. And I've said before, I think it would have devastating outcomes for the kids of Jefferson County, especially when I believe we're doing the right work. I know there's a lot of controversy. I know there's a lot of challenge. My ask is to let us do this work. Let us show you we're successful with it. If we're not successful with it, then we should be held accountable. I tell that to the people in Jefferson County all the time. Accountability is critical, but let us implement, execute our changes, and prove that we will be successful. Thank you, sir.
Our final question comes from Co-Chair Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Polio, it sounds like you have an aggressive agenda, a lot to work on in the coming months ahead. Your community is much different than mine. The weapons detection system, something I don't know that we have it at our schools. I guess it's new in your district. But trying to limit this to one question, what are the if I imagine it is an issue, people bringing weapons to school, what are the consequences to something like that? What are the repercussions, the challenges within the school, and what you might face for students who disobey with that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, obviously, it is to reduce or eliminate guns in schools. I mean, there's no well, really, we should say guns anywhere. I think no matter what our belief about guns, I think we could all agree that a child should not have a gun in their backpack at school. I mean, I think everybody can agree to that. And so first and foremost, it's preventing that from happening. So when that does happen and we have to take consequences or actions, first of all, we have a Jefferson County Public School Police Department that, we correspond with LMPD, and then charges are the responsibility of LMPD, but nearly every single time that does occur. And then we follow our code of conduct, which almost always means, unless it's a special ed student, and there are separate laws around special education and least restrictive environment that goes to the ARC committee. But they are placed in an alternative school, even the special ed students, for a number of days. But students are placed in an alternative school for at least one calendar year.
Okay. So obviously there are consequences to disregarding what the rules are.
Yes.
And you know where I'm going with this. Just recently, this body passed Senate Bill 150. We did it for the betterment and for the protection of the children in our care, the children in your school system, and your board completely disregarded that legislation that was passed. So you have sidestepped the law and said you're just not going to follow it. I want to read here what the resolution says so the people in this audience, the people in this body can understand what JCPS has chosen to do. It says the district shall provide access to resources that are specifically responsive to gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. The district shall allow students and staff to use requested names and pronouns. The district and school shall incorporate LGBTQ people and issues in school curricula. The district will not reveal a student's transgender status to parents. Parents will be granted access to official school records if requested. That brings me to the question, I'm not going to ask you the question, if there are shadow records. Parents should never be kept in the dark. Parents should always be aware of what's going on with their child. They are responsible if their child brings a gun to school. They are responsible the behavior that's going on with their kid and the challenges they may face. They are the decision makers for their kids, not your school system. And for you guys to disregard the law that we have passed is completely irresponsible, and it sets a bad precedent for the students in your care. You have 98,000 students in your district. Should they follow your rules if you won't follow the rules that are set before you? I would say yes, they should. But you need to set the example of doing what's right by following the law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Give you a moment if you'd like to comment.
Well, I'll just say this. I mean, we have, I'm a social studies teacher. So when I was a social studies teacher, we have a legislative branch and an executive branch. There is no doubt our job as the executive branch is to propose policies to our board, and our board is the legislative branch that passes that. Right now, I mean, there's a very divided board. There is no doubt about it. I can't speak for all 7 board members because they have very different voices. There are the ones who have made the decision to this point where they could not agree on a policy. We're working on that. We will pass a policy that follows state law. But once again, I'm the executive branch of the side of this government, so to speak, in school education. My job is to propose and make a recommendation. That's what I did. So we'll continue to work with our Board of Education. I'll once again say I don't have a vote in that matter. But this is the governance model that we have with schools. And so very difficult issue, very challenging issue that we are being pulled in many directions by our community, but we are continuing to do the work so that we can pass a policy.
With that, thank you all for your presentation. There were 2 citizens who had signed up to speak. I'm going to apologize due to time constraints. We'll not be able to have you speak today. We do have an administrative regulation that we need to review. It is in your packet. It is regulation that came from House Bill 319. For the new members, here's our options on administrative regulations, and we've got Cassie Trueblood from EPSB is here. If anybody has any questions, we can take no action. We can ask them to amend the regulation, or we can vote to find the regulation deficient. If you look in your information, they have already amended the regulation once based on some recommendations from Co-Chair West and I. Anybody have any questions for Cassie on this, or want to take any action? Okay. Staff has told me that we do have to approve the agency amendment. And what the agency amendment does, it deletes the requirement that an applicant must provide an offer of employment in a school district to apply for the certificate that is consistent with other language in House Bill 319. Do I hear a motion to approve that amendment to the regulation? Have a motion. Is there a second? All right. We do this by voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That amendment is adopted. Representative Raymond, you have a question? You said no. I apologize. You said you voted no. We got that for the record. Okay. Any other action on the administrative reg? If not, before we adjourn, Senator Wise has an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, members, Senator Givens is absent today. We want to pass this along in conjunction with our meeting next month on September 19th for the Interim Joint Committee on Education. On that day, students and teachers will be in the Capitol in the annex. The room is yet to be determined, but a legislator will be able to sit and learn about computer coding from Kentucky students. Additionally, there will be a legislative roundtable and experts from across the K through 12 computer science field to discuss the importance of computer science for our education and economic future, as well as identifying goals for improving access to computer science education for all students across the Commonwealth. Code.org, as well as others, will be here in the annex to discuss the importance of the issue, which we have passed with previous legislation out of this body dealing with coding. So legislators will be receiving a formal invitation, and a lunch will be provided with the conjunction of next month's September 19th meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wise. I apologize for the length of the meeting, but I hope we all agree this is worthwhile information. With that, this meeting is adjourned.